Joining an established company as a marketing executive, keeping your product and your marketing simple, the long-term value of focusing on your customers' pain points, and some insight into the Trello Acquisition by Atlassian. That and more on this episode of Advertising Influencers.
Advertising Influencers. Conversations with today's top-tier marketers from Silicon Valley and beyond. Powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page solution.
Hello. Hope you're doing very well whenever and wherever you are listening. My name is Ander, and welcome to Advertising Influencers, the podcast powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page platform for teams and agencies, where my own team and I are on a quest to lower the cost of customer acquisition. And part of that is this podcast, where we interview marketing thought leaders who are the best and brightest in the business on how they break through the noise and lower the cost of customer acquisition for their companies or their clients. Last episode featured the head of marketing at Gusto, Jaleh Rezai, and she certainly had some rockstar insights. Today, those types of insights continue with a marketing executive that I'm thrilled and honored to sit down with for this episode. J.D. Peterson, former CMO of Trello, the already huge company that recently announced their acquisition by Atlassian in January of this year, 2017. J.D. was the CMO of Trello when the company's acquisition was announced. However, he's also served as a marketing executive at Marketo, Zendesk, and a number of other companies here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Currently, he's working as the Chief Growth Officer at Culture Amp, a company helping other companies become better places to work. And he's also working as an advisor at OneReach, which is a cloud-based bot building tool in Denver, Colorado. This is actually one of the few opportunities I'm personally aware of that marketers will have to hear from one of the driving forces of Trello's marketing efforts before this major acquisition. So, needless to say, I'm incredibly excited to share this conversation. On that note, let's go say hello to JD. It's always exciting to interview somebody from a company, or actually a number of companies that have made news in the past and the present, or whatever it might be. And today it is a pleasure to be joined here at the Instapage headquarters in San Francisco by J.D. Peterson, currently the CMO Chief Marketing Officer of Trello. JD, it is a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Our first sunny day in San Francisco in a while, so it was nice to walk over here.
Yeah, it is, and I've appreciated the rain. It certainly has been welcome given the drought that we've experienced, but Absolutely. At this point, I'm kind of ready for it to wind down a little bit.
Me too, yeah. Look, few weeks, nice dose, get some water on the ground, and let's move on.
Exactly. Congratulations. Trello was just acquired by Atlassian.
Yes. The news just broke of the acquisition by Atlassian. Very exciting and interesting times for the company for sure, and really a testament to the team that built the company, and the founders all the way through all the employees. Really a testament to all the hard work and innovation that they've put into it.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing a company and a product that I've been using for such a long time for so many different things. I mean, editorial calendars back when I was primarily in content marketing, to project management for trips I've taken with friends. It's pretty incredible seeing a company like that get acquired by another company, which appears to be a really, really great partnership.
Definitely, and it's funny you mentioned that, because when I was looking to join a company a little while back, actually not that long ago, earlier last year, when I came across Trello, that was really the big thing that stood out to me. Is just about everybody I talked to, whether through my work network or personal friends, parents at my kids' school, I would just mention, you ever heard of Trello? And the answer was always pretty much what you gave there. And it was usually, know it, like I love it, and here's what I use it for. And they start giving me all the use cases.
I planned my wedding on Trello, like
that's
stuff
a common
like that.
One.
Yeah.
That's a common one.
Not me personally, but
Yep.
But you also have worked for a number of other companies, as I mentioned, Zendesk, Marketo, Scripted.
Yes.
There's quite a few. So I think that the best place to start with this conversation might be diving into your professional journey a little bit.
Sure.
How you got into marketing even. That would be really interesting to know.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting one. So yes, you mentioned a few of the many companies, which basically means I'm dating myself and showing some age here. But yeah, around here, I'm pretty much a grizzled veteran of the Silicon Valley. Been working in tech companies pretty much my whole career, and grew up out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, so kind of fell into it naturally. I'll maybe touch on one experience I had very early on, which I think gave me the startup bug, and then I'll kind of move to the career and the marketing.
Perfect.
So one of my very first full-time jobs when I moved back to the area after college, I took actually a customer service job, not really knowing what I was getting into or much about the company, and it ended up being Hotmail, the free email service that at the time was really probably the internet's first like killer app, aside from just websites. We're talking all the way back in the 90s, of course.
My first email was a Hotmail account.
I mean, pretty much, and again, pretty much a common story. Everybody's, Hotmail was the first. By the way, I'm still like the last person in the San Francisco Bay Area that uses Hotmail. It's some weird loyalty thing. Yeah, people always give me a hard time about that, but it's funny. So yeah, did that and went into there, and a couple weeks after starting, literally about 2 weeks after starting, I was promoted to the manager of the customer support team that I was working on, and basically been managing people ever since. So kind of got the management bug and the love of working and helping others in a company environment way back then. And then, of course, Hotmail had a pretty good exit itself. Not long after that, we were acquired by Microsoft for, I think it was about $400 million. And in late 90s, I don't know what that would equate to now, but
it's
probably a unicorn
money.
status or close, right? So a good amount of money, and joined Microsoft, spent a little time there, and then decided while I was there that I didn't necessarily want to, at the time, pursue an entire career in customer service, and was kind of wanting to get closer to the product and really so I had the startup bug and wanted to get closer to product, and then eventually tried some other startups. This was in the original .com crash, so some went well, some didn't. But over time, I started moving and eventually fell into a product management role. So in fact, probably the bulk of my career in terms of years was spent in product management. So I do still in some ways consider myself a product guy. And that was kind of core product management, working with engineering, trying to bring the customer's feedback in the market, analysis into building a roadmap and determining what we should build and putting together the requirements and getting that stuff launched. So did that for a while. Again, some mildly successful, some not so successful startups. That product management career for me really culminated in I became vice president of products in the early days of Marketo. So one of the big leaders, still a leader, and one of really the early pioneers in the marketing automation space.
We actually just launched a Marketo integration with our own product.
Awesome.
So totally hear you.
And I'm glad you did, because the landing page editor that we built way back when I was there, I believe is still the editor that's native in Marketo.
I believe you're right.
Let's just say Instapage is, no offense to Marketo, but I think the Instapage integration will help a lot of users.
Very kind of you.
Yeah, definitely. So it was at Marketo that, and a great company, and learned so much there. But it was there that I actually realized that I really wanted to be a marketer. And I think that was seeing our own marketing team led by John Miller, who's really a thought leader in the B2B marketing space, and has an exciting new company that he's working on. But I think seeing what he and our team there were doing, which in many ways was, I think, writing the playbook on modern B2B marketing and kind of creating it as they go. Seeing that, as well as what all of our amazing customers were doing. We had so many great marketers as customers of Marketo, and being able to work closely with them and see the things that they were doing to really drive growth in their companies really just got me excited. And then I think, maybe as you can tell already, I like to talk, I like to tell stories. And so marketing was probably where I should have been all along. But so it was there that I really got the bug for that. And fortunately was able to really make a move into marketing, kind of from the product marketing angle. But after my time at Marketo, I moved over to Zendesk, where I was able to really fully move into a marketing executive role, and kind of haven't looked back since, and really had a great and amazing journey and run with Zendesk, where I got to get hands-on with really just about every flavor of marketing, or every kind of subgroup within marketing at various times there. And then, the rest is sort of history. I guess from there, went to Scripted, where I did a little bit of everything, including a stint as an interim CEO for a while. And then eventually left there and moved to Trello not that long ago.
June last year.
Yeah, just June last year. So when I joined, didn't think it would be, that soon before a big event like getting acquired. But really, really an amazing company and an amazing experience. Glad to take that journey with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I definitely want to talk about Trello
Sure.
and what you were able to do there. But before we get into that, given your experience as interim CEO at Scripted and in a marketing leadership role at Zendesk, I'd actually be curious to know, I talked with Rob Meinhardt, who he just left, but he was a partner at Toba Capital.
Okay.
And we talked a lot about building a marketing organization.
Yeah.
We talked about what it means in terms of creating a culture to have, great team of employees, and also how that translates into your users and speaking with your customers. But what about actually finding those employees? I'm wondering, there's so many different channels, so many different things that startups and companies are exploring right now. And where do you start? Who do you start hiring? What channels do you start focusing on the most? I mean, when you're in the traction stage, it's obviously quite different. You got to be trying a little bit of everything or whatever. Yeah. But if you're going to start building a marketing team, who do you hire first?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I'm asked a lot. And I wish there was a perfect, sort of magic bullet answer, but I do think it depends on each company. But that said, the things that I think are somewhat universal, or at least have been my experience and the way I look at it. First and foremost, I think when you're building a marketing team, the first thing you want to do is really, what I use the expression, hire athletes. Right. And you think of like the baseball analogy, they talk about the 5-tool player, that person that can throw, run, hit, catch. And I don't know what the fifth one is. Who knows what the fifth one is?
Maybe something more intellectual or something.
Something like that. Maybe they have to have a brain too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But somebody that's very versatile and can do lots of different things. And I think that especially in the early stages, you're going to be figuring out what channels work. You're going to be wanting to test things and experiment, and you're probably going to change directions a bunch of times. And so I think what you need on that early team is not so much the person who has, 10 years of super specialized experience in one particular thing, search marketing or whatever it might be. I think what you want to find is those people who can truly not just handle it, but really thrive in a situation where they're asked to be a generalist and truly, to use the cliche, wear many hats. So you want, the main things I'm looking for are just intelligence. Is this person have a natural curiosity? Are they a smart person that can figure stuff out, and a lot of times figure stuff out on their own, because there may not be somebody there to teach them that new thing we're going to try, right? So somebody who can demonstrate a certain intellectual capacity and a thirst for knowledge and learning and figuring stuff out, as well as passion. I think that probably maybe the most important thing, I think, in startups in general is passion to me. It's having a team and being able to build a culture where people just absolutely care about what you're doing and what that mission is, and absolutely care deeply about getting better at marketing and better engaging with your market, your customers, those types of things. Also, even having a passion outside of work, I think, is really important too. And that's something I always talk about in interviews with people, is like, what's getting you out of bed when you're not thinking about work, right? Because I think it just demonstrates, I want somebody who can get fired up about something, right? And I also believe in work-life balance very, very deeply. And so having somebody who has something they really care about outside of work, I think can make a big difference too. And this was a lesson in many ways I did learn at Zendesk, where I think that was something we really truly valued as a company, was people that had very strong passions, no matter what those were.
Awesome.
So I think starting there, and that's a very generalist answer. I think if you want to get into specific roles, again, you're going to test different channels. Maybe you already know something for your brand and you've kind of identified a need. But all other things being equal, I think your early team, you're going to need a content person of some sort, right? Somebody who can write, somebody who can create pieces of content, generate interesting stuff. Might be things like we're doing here. Might be audio or verbal. Might be pure written work. And I think journalist backgrounds is definitely something I always look for there.
Well, I came from a broadcasting background.
Perfect.
That's how I got into marketing.
Exactly. Perfect. And I think that's important, because it's not just, and you have a lovely speaking voice,
well,
by the way.
Thank you so much.
But it's not just that, I think, and much on the writing side too. It's not just an ability to write, but why I like kind of that journalist, sort of mindset, is that ability to ask good questions and to also find the story within the story. So you're not just kind of regurgitating, the same old stuff, because I think it's important in content to always find your unique angle. We could talk about that later. But definitely having somebody in today's world, you're going to need to produce a lot of stuff, a lot of content. And I think somebody that can do that and do that well is definitely an early hire. I think in today's world too, with marketing becoming much more data-driven, much more scientific and analytical, having sort of that marketing ops person, if you will, or at least somebody who's very good and comfortable with numbers and testing and information, and analyzing and pulling insights from information. I think that's critically important too. So a very tech savvy, somebody that can help you everything from reporting to running experiments and tests with your website or with various channels. Kind of that a very versatile kind of data driven operational type of person. I think is another one. And then of course, maybe third would be the classic demand gen, kind of thing. And again, looking for a generalist there, because I don't know that, especially in the early days of a company, you're going to know exactly what channels are going to work or you're going to need. So somebody who can, has some experience in generating leads and running different programs and putting that person in place. So those are probably at least the starting points on a team. But yeah, generalists above all else.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. Super useful. And at this point, I'd actually like to move to Trello.
Sure.
And what you've been doing most recently there. You joined in June 2016, basically about 6-7 months ago, whatever that is now.
Yep.
And then there was this major exit. You got acquired by Atlassian. When you joined, what was the goal? Were you just looking, was there an exit in mind? Was that primarily why you were hired? Was it broader than that? And what was the strategy behind that goal at a high level?
Yeah, so when I got hired, no, I did not know that this event was going to come. And I don't think it was it wasn't necessarily a plan. I think as a company, the company's objectives and my main objectives coming in were to grow the business. Everything from employee size, I think we roughly doubled the employee size over the time that I was there. But more importantly, revenue, active users, all the kind of key growth metrics that we cared about as a business. And it was sort of scaling and preparing for big growth, over the future, and trying to scale what we were doing now and also find new channels and new ways to acquire customers was probably the bulk of kind of why I was brought in and what the company was focused on. We expected to, or at least had conversations, and definitely within our sights was to have a fundraising event of some sort. Acquisition was probably not the top priority by any stretch of the imagination. And in many ways, that's what an acquisition is. It's just a different type of fundraising event, but it's certainly a way to, one part of it at least is a way to infuse capital into a business. So I think the business. And Trello was very conservative financially. We ran the company very close to break even, could have been profitable had we chosen to. But I think we saw the opportunity now to really seize this market that we were in and to capitalize on the extremely awesome, organic, huge user growth, mostly from the freemium aspect of us. But to really capitalize on that and kind of hit the gas pedal and really take this thing to the next level quickly before competition and other things might have caught up or market factors changed. So I think there was definitely a mindset of let's get aggressive, let's grow this business, and we're probably going to need an infusion of capital to do that. And I think in the process of sort of weighing all options and looking out there, this came up. And I think both from obviously the financial side, but also from a team culture, a product vision and mission fit, I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly sounds like it. And it's interesting joining a company when it is past the product market fit stage. It's really working. I don't know off the top of my head how many users there were, but I imagine it's in the numbers of millions,
yes,
the many
definitely.
Millions.
Yep.
When you join a company like that, how does that inform your strategy as a CMO, shaping the marketing of an organization that has already seen quite a lot of success?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing it shapes is that, maybe in going back to the earlier question, maybe my number one objective was don't screw this up. Right.
Yeah, that's a totally different kind of pressure.
But I think as maybe funny as that sounds or whatever, I think that's absolutely a real thing. And there is a lot of pressure, as you point out, too. There's been all this goodness so far. How do we start doing new things and continue to accelerate and add additional growth, but not mess up what we have, not tarnish this brand, not anger customers in any way or change their perception or the way they think about Trello. So I think a lot of it was really, how do we grow? How do we add a lot of people to this company? How do we add a lot more customers and do a lot more things without sort of screwing up the vibe and the mojo, that we have?
So does that affect the ability to experiment? Does that affect the ability to innovate?
I think it does. It doesn't stop you by any stretch, but I think it affects it. Sure. I think you've got to be careful. I think we had to be really, really careful, and we always had to, as cliche as it might sound, we truly had to put our customers first and really think about them and how they were going to react to something, really in everything that we did, because we had this amazing customer base. Which, by the way, though, going back to why I joined the company and feeding into the strategy question here, having that. To me, there's no, other than a great product itself, there's no greater asset you can have as a marketer than a lot of super happy customers.
Oh, that is absolutely true.
Right? I mean, and again, it sounds pretty obvious, but it's a truly amazing thing. And I think as far as how that shaped our strategy, I mean, it's shaped in a big way. How can we leverage that, right? How can we have these customers do the marketing for us, right? Word of mouth, telling their stories, everything from, trying to inject more formal case studies into just showing off inspiring use cases of our customers, that sort of thing. So, and building a community, a great, whether it's through social media or other online communities, or we started to dabble in events and bringing our customers together. And a lot of the value we saw out of that was just customers talking to customers, right? And really sharing the word and sharing. It's amazing to go to one of those events and like what you just see all over the place was people showing each other their boards, right? Like, wait, you're doing it for what? Editorial calendar? What? Can I see that board? Can I look at it? So I think that was a huge part of our strategy too. And a lot of our thinking the last 6 months was just finding new ways to leverage that love that we had from our customers and have them help tell our story.
Awesome. There's an interesting thing with Trello, as you mentioned, editorial calendar. That's one use case. Planning out your marketing campaigns.
Use case, by the way, that me as a marketer never thought to use Trello until I actually joined Trello and figured that out.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. But you see so many different types of people using the product for different types of things, whether it's managing your marketing campaigns, managing a launch, maybe it's planning your wedding, or maybe it's, as I said, planning a group, a trip with your group of your friends or whatever it is.
Yep.
We talk a lot here at Instapage about personalization, specifically advertising personalization, but the concept of marketing personalization is just very important in general. Sure. The one-to-many approach, the one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't work that well anymore for a lot of different types of products. When you have a product that really works for everyone, that has a universal application one way or another, how do you achieve that kind of personalization that is able to articulate the unique value proposition of such an awesome product in a specific way for a specific audience? Yeah,
extremely challenging. And I think the reality is, because of the horizontal nature and because we saw our target market as basically everybody, we couldn't really get super personalized with a lot of our marketing messaging and a lot of things we did. We would certainly create content and execute certain campaigns and things where at various times we'd focus on particular use cases or on particular departments and how they use it and that kind of thing. But we couldn't get super, super personalized. We had to definitely... And I think it was part of fundamentally how we saw ourselves. We truly saw Trello as a product you could use for just about anything. And so that was really what we wanted to market to people. We certainly, and especially over the time that I was there, shifted that. While we love the wedding use cases, and we want people to do that, and we want people to use it for those things in their personal life, anything where they're planning something, organizing something, collaborating with others on a thing, no matter what that thing is. We want people using Trello, and use the free one, and that'll always be there for them. We did start to shift a lot of our focus, a lot of our messaging, a lot of positioning, though, to work.
Right.
And at least having people think about that. We believed really the sweet spot and the absolute best use of Trello was for work and working with other people, no matter what kind of work that would be. So we started to make shifts in the positioning and messaging along those lines. We also, again, while we serve just about anyone in the smallest businesses and individual users, but also some very interesting and sophisticated large enterprises. I mean, I think it's something in the ballpark of a high percentage of the Fortune 500 had hundreds or thousands of users of Trello.
Yeah, it's Google's on that list.
Oh, yeah.
There are a number of companies.
Absolutely.
Household names.
And many that aren't even in the tech world, right? Manufacturing companies and all sorts of railroad companies, things like that, really all over the map. So we did definitely, we shifted sort of towards work. We started to do some things to speak more to some of those enterprise customers as well. But that's always a challenge, right? You don't want to alienate your small customers and make it feel like you're moving up enterprise. We just wanted to expand, kind of the overall picture, not really move from one market to another.
And that opens the door to this other conversation about moving from the free product to the premium product, getting people to start paying for a tool. And on this podcast, Advertising Influencers, I've talked about this with Bitly. I've talked about it with Grammarly, both tools that have an awesome free product, just like Trello. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, in order to monetize that, you have to start moving people towards a paid plan. And obviously, the most money is going to be in those enterprise plans.
Yep.
How do you do that? How did Trello do that?
Good question. I wish I knew. No, no. What we did, so funny. Backing up a little bit on the clock a few years, when Trello from the beginning wanted this to be a free product, and the initial mindset at Trello from the earliest days was, if we can get 100 million people using Trello, using this product, if we can then figure out how to even extract, say, $100 from 1% of that audience, that's a big business. That's real revenue, right? And so I think that was kind of the mindset. And the first, few years was just, let's just get this in the hands of as many people as we can, through the freemium model. We'll punt on monetization and we'll figure that out later. And hopefully the way will become clear. The initial thing they started charging for really came because customers, quite frankly, begged to pay. And customers started asking, hey, how can I give you guys money? Because I'm really relying on this thing, and I don't want you guys to just go out of business one day and it disappear. Like, I want to make sure Trello stays here and stays alive. And so can I give you money? And I think the initial name of the feature or the plan they first added was actually Tip Jar or something like that. Maybe that was the internal name. I don't remember. But it became something we had called Trello Gold, which really was just, you got a few bells and whistles, a few extra things, background images, stickers, things like that for your cards, eventually some extra integrations, things like that. And we started charging a very minimal amount of money, I think $5 a month, for Gold. But really then eventually the site started gaining, as we started seeing more and more that people were using this for business, real businesses were starting to have real usage of Trello. Then the idea came, hey, let's start figuring out some plans that make sense for businesses. The idea really being those who are extracting the most value from Trello, let's figure out a way that's fair that they can give us some value back, right? That we can charge them for that amazing value that they're getting. So eventually we added our business class and enterprise plans. The thinking at Trello may be different from a lot of other freemium services. We didn't specifically, the way you end up paying wasn't really necessarily as much about hitting a wall or hitting some limit. The easiest things we could have done to juice revenue or to goose up revenue would have been to just say, okay, let's limit the number of boards that someone can have or the number of users they can invite. And quite frankly, that probably would have got the company to a much higher revenue level faster than it is now. But we thought that long term and the vision and getting to 100 million people and all these things, that wasn't the right move. We wanted people to have the full experience of Trello and not be limited by having to pay. We wanted them to create more boards because ultimately that generally brought more people to Trello. Number one way people come to Trello and sign up for Trello is getting invited by someone else's board. And so we didn't want to put limits on those things. We wanted this thing to just continue to be extremely viral and grow like a weed, and we didn't want to put those sort of limits on things. So for us, the mindset was more about how do we just add additional value, keep the core product simple, keep the core product free, keep it fairly unlimited, and then how do we create additional value add features and functionality that businesses would be willing to pay for on top. Security related features became the biggest
Very
thing.
important for enterprise.
Absolutely. So you could go, a lot of our sales model, especially initially, is go into an enterprise where we already see tons of usage of the free product and basically talk to them about security. Say, hey, if Ander leaves the company, his boards go with him. Right? And you probably don't want that. So, that's the kind of stuff that became in our paid plans. We did there was a little bit of limiting around integrations, because that's another thing, that the paid plans, you get access to a lot more of what Trello refers to as power-ups, but advanced features or oftentimes integrations became part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a step back from Trello and speak about the marketing space as a whole, especially about advertising. And to whatever degree, Trello or Zendesk or Marketo or any other company, to whatever degree they were involved in advertising, how important do you see advertising personalization being moving forward? How is it going to change?
Yeah, I mean, it's critically important. I will say for most of the companies that I've been at, including Zendesk and Marketo, advertising in the sense of display ads or any kind of traditional advertising, those sort of things, came pretty late in the game. So we got to a pretty substantial place in terms of size and revenue and customer base well before doing too much of that type of advertising. I think all the companies other than Trello that I've been at did at least AdWords and search marketing fairly early on to make sure we were there to capture, that very specific and directed demand that comes through search. But in terms of display, even retargeting, things like that, came a little bit later. And again, I think that just depends on your business and how good of organic growth and all those sorts of things that you're seeing, how early you should get into it. I think once you do get into it, and we certainly experienced this at Zendesk, the more personalized you can be, the better. I mean, there's just no question about it. If you're doing, if you're an enterprise-focused business and you're probably dabbling in the world of account-based marketing, right? Having very targeted ads that speak directly to that company or to their specific use cases or needs, huge returns on that. Mm-hmm. Always tests better and always shows better. So even if you can do something at a company or a use case or a segment level, maybe not even down to just the individual person level, but if you can personalize even to one of those broader things, you're going to get a lot better success than just sort of the one size fits all and putting one message out there. But it also, again, a lot of this really depends on your specific business and what your target market is when it comes to advertising and how effective you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And marketing in general, where's it all going? What are we going to be seeing happening in a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it is? What is the direction that you see growth and marketing and breaking through the noise going?
Yeah, I mean, I'll pull the crystal ball here, but no, I think, look, I think a couple things come to mind. I mean, one is just the continuation of what I hit on earlier of marketing becoming this much more blend of art and science. And I think, in fact, an interesting thing is, I think actually the pendulum might already be, or is probably going to swing a little bit back to the art side or the creative side.
I was just thinking that.
A little bit. I think there's been almost this, it's been amazing that we've been able to bring more data, sort of more scientific, more mathematical type thinking into marketing. And that was extremely necessary and certainly came out of us having this thing called the internet where we could actually get data and measure and better understand what people are doing. And I think in some cases I've seen that pendulum has now swung so far that companies have sort of lost the humanness of marketing. And to me, the best marketing always comes down to being able to make true human connections and ultimately help people. And so I think it's going to be interesting. There's going to be continued advancement on what we can do and what we can understand and analyze with data. There's going to be new technology we don't even know about today. I mean, the fact we're sitting here doing a podcast like 5 years ago would have never dreamed of that, right? So there's going to be new channels, there's going to be new technology, and we'll be embracing and figuring those out. But I think there's also going to be this pendulum side back to, and again, we're already seeing it. And I think Instapage is a great example where putting a big emphasis on design and putting a big emphasis on just quality of content and that sort of thing. I think that's definitely going to come back. Creativity is what's going to help you stand out from the noise. Well, creativity and helpfulness. And I always go back to the word helpfulness. In everything we do in my marketing teams, that's like the one thing I want to always emphasize with people is how does this help? How does this, and not us, how does this help our customer or our target customer? If you're going to write a piece of content, I don't honestly care about the clicks and the short-term value we're going to get of, stuffing it with SEO words or what have you. Like, is that piece actually going to help somebody? Is it going to help them solve their problem? Is it going to help them do better at their job? Talking in a B2B context. I think if you keep your sights there and you continue to be as helpful as you can and you do it in a creative and unique way, that's what's going to stand out from the noise, and that's what's going to get people paying attention to your brand.
Awesome. I completely agree with you. And I think all the personalization that we are engaging with right now, we're seeing kind of taking over marketing in some ways is only going to get stronger, only going to get more important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob, it has been such a pleasure having you here. We're just about out of time, but thank you so much for coming to our office. I want to ask you, is there anything that, as the worldwide listening audience of this podcast, marketers in general, is there anything that we can do for you, for Trello, for marketing?
I don't know if there's anything you could do for me. I think just, other than, keep pushing, right? And I think myself, like all marketers, what's the thing? The best artists steal, right? It's inspiration. I think that and I, the last few weeks, have been talking to just lots of different companies and meeting lots of different people. And it's just amazing some of the stuff that you see out there and people really pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And it's very inspiring. And so, I guess that's the only thing I would ask is for people to keep pushing the envelope of what's possible and keep inspiring others, as well as myself. But I'd probably say that. And I guess anything we can do to keep that rain away, let's keep that happening too.
Well, JD, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much once again.
Absolutely. Big fan of Instapage. Love what you guys are doing, and great to be here and be a part of this.
Here are the takeaways from our conversation with JD Peterson. Stepping into the shoes of an organization's marketing leader always comes with a unique set of challenges. And joining a company the size of Trello as the executive marketing leadership requires a balance in innovation and maintaining what has worked so far. Even though this doesn't stop entirely, there's no doubt that it has a potential effect on the ability to innovate. The solution to this is to be reactive to your users and continue putting your customers first. Products that have the ability to truly deliver clear value for a user base as broad as Trello's benefit from simplicity, a product that is easy to understand and use for just about anybody. In some cases, it might even be worth it to keep the product free to drive virality and stickiness within the product itself. At the very least, I think we can say it worked out quite well for Trello. While the metrics always matter, focus on optimizing content, advertising, and any other marketing initiatives for the long game. Ultimately, this comes down to creating real value across all your marketing channels. If you're joining an established company as a marketing executive, testing out a new channel for your company, or even solving a marketing issue as an agency for one of your clients, delivering value will boost your long-term KPIs for that business. I am quite excited, to say the very least, on how JD's marketing leadership, strategic, and executional skill set are going to take his current company, Culture Amp, to the next level. Lots of great things to come from JD and all the companies he ends up at in the coming future. As always, the show notes for this episode and every other episode of Advertising Influencers can be found right on our website at instapage.com/podcast. Lots of other amazing resources there as well, including the most powerful landing page platform and our awesome blog that is full of resources for all of your digital marketing and or landing page needs. You're also welcome to reach out to me while you are online. My name is Ander, and my email is ander, ANDER, @instapage.com. Next episode, we're talking to another marketing rock star, another executive rock star. His name is Wade Foster, and he is the CEO and co-founder of an app that millions of marketers and other professionals are using every single day. Zapier. Zapier makes you happier, he says, and it's something that has, from my own experience, and I imagine that of, again, countless other people, saved me hours of time. Zapier has a fairly integrated place in the entire MarTech ecosystem and a really fascinating growth story itself, so I really hope you'll join me here for that conversation. All right, my fellow marketers, I am out for now. My name is Ander, and this is Advertising Influencers. Cheers to your future success, and cheers to better marketing. I will talk to you soon.
Advertising Influencers. Conversations with today's top-tier marketers from Silicon Valley and beyond. Powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page solution.